Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Turns out the whole sub incident that we've been following for the last couple of days, and I don't know if you watched my other video about it, but it's obviously gaining a lot of attention, and people are starting to dig in a little bit as to what happened with this whole situation, how it could have been avoided, and you feel kind of bad for the group of individuals that went down. Well, it turns out the CEO that wanted to get diversity hires and hire young people, and he didn't want the old white guys working for him because that wouldn't have, excited the youth and the next generation coming up today to maybe get into the subnautical field. Turns out they had an old white guy that warned them that what they were doing is dangerous and wasn't going to work and wasn't meeting the tolerances, and they fired him. And then they went ahead with the project anyway, which ended up in complete catastrophe. We have the main story here. Behind the company behind the missing Titan sub allegedly fired a director for raising concerns about the vessel and its potential to expose passengers to extreme danger. Now, this was last put out yesterday about 8 a.m., I guess it is. No, the 21st, 8 a.m. So this was before they knew the situation. Now, it doesn't mean that the Navy didn't know, because the Navy pretty much knew right away and held on to it for a week. Why, we don't know. We can only guess. But this is before everybody knew that obviously the thing imploded on itself. They say banging sounds have been detected in the frantic effort to locate the missing Titan sub. It went missing 700 kilometers off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. Contact was lost with the crew an hour and 45 minutes into its dive. However, it has emerged that OceanGate, the company behind the dive, was repeatedly warned that the Titan had several serious safety flaws. Now, why this story didn't come out before the launch, who knows? And the truth is, and I didn't pull this story up, but the truth is it sounds like our Navy, the United States Navy, knew when it imploded because they heard it. And it happened at the same time that the contact with the sub went off, which was sometime, I think, Sunday, just a mere hour, 45 minutes after its launch. And they notified the Coast Guard command, but they didn't say anything to anybody else. I don't know why. A lot of people are speculating that they held the news release until some other news of our political administration. They wanted to kind of cover up that story. I don't know about all that. In a lot of cases, they don't want to announce that somebody's been ended and then turn around and find out, oh, well, actually they were okay, because that would really mess with the families. I think they really wanted to make sure. But again, something weird's going on. Anyway, they say in a 2018 lawsuit, David Lockridge, who began working as OceanGate's Director of Marine Operations in 2015, alleged that he was sacked after pointing out the company that a submersible had not been built or tested to suitable safety standards, potentially putting passengers milliseconds from implosion. What they went on to say, or he went on to say, is he was talking about the evident flaws, and according to Lockridge, Rush labeled him the best man for the job, as he had the most experience working with submersibles. And they went through the materials and testing, and they were trying to use titanium and carbon fiber, which had not been used up to that point. And with carbon fiber, it doesn't really flex or bend. It just pops. And the problem is a lot of the sensors that they normally put into a submersible, like when they do steel or other things, they can measure the amount of squeeze that is on the metal because the metal flexes a little bit. So they can tell and monitor it. With carbon fiber, you can't do that. And so instead of putting normal materials and normal monitoring on this thing, what happened is they just did carbon fiber and it just crushed. The good news is the people that were ended, it probably happened so quickly that they didn't even know it happened. Like by the time you hear some cracking and everything, that kind of pressure just slams it like a can, and that water pressure would kill you instantly. So at least they weren't down there getting cold and struggling and suffering. It was very quick, but it was only about an hour and 45 minutes into their trip. Anyway, according to MIT, submersibles pressure hulls are usually made of steel, aluminum, titanium, acrylic, plastic, and glass, with steel being the most widely used material due to its outstanding performance in the ocean. Lockridge was also anxious about the lack of non-destructive testing performed on the Titan's hull. He said he had been repeatedly told that due to the hull's thickness, no form of equipment existed to sufficiently perform the tests. That in and of itself should be a warning. So what they should have done, if this was an untested vehicle, is sent it down unmanned and had monitoring equipment inside of it to see what happened. Diving the submersible without any non-destructive testing to prove its integrity would subject passengers to potential extreme danger in an experimental submersible. And I'll get to the other part of the story. I just want to give you a background of what this guy said, because he was right, it turns out. And he's the one that fired, and he's the one that could have saved everybody. Again, all for diversity. In early 2018, Lockridge issued his inspection report on the Titan. He said he offered corrective actions, recommendations for each of the individual problems. OceanGate called a meeting the day after he issued his report with several executives, including the CEO, in attendance. During the meeting, Lockridge said he discovered the Titan's viewport was certified to a pressure of 1,300 meters below sea level, but they intended to take it down 4,000 meters. However, Lockridge alleged that the company refused to pay for the Titan's manufacturer to build a viewport that would meet the required standards for those depths. So here you've got a CEO that's using different materials. He's being cheap, and he thinks he knew better. He thinks he knew better than the ocean and all the years of experience and old white men that had done this before. They say, however, he claimed that instead of taking his safety concerns on board, OceanGate immediately fired him. They gave Lockridge approximately 10 minutes to immediately clear out his desk and exit the premises. A spokesperson for OceanGate was not available. And here's the interesting thing. It looks like OceanGate has closed their offices, like they're not open today. And this was the original story from 2017, the merman facing a Titanic mission. And this is him, David Lockridge, and he was 45 years old in 2017. What would that make him today? 50 years old or 51 years old. I think when the CEO said, we don't need any 50-year-old men, old white men, to tell us what we're doing, I think he was referencing this guy, Lockridge. And because Lockridge was telling him, hey, what you're doing is not going to work, and they fired him, and then they say, we don't need any 50-year-olds. We're going to teach young people how to do this. So I think this is the guy they were referencing. And they talk about all his experience and the testing that he's done. And the guy knew what he was doing. They knew what he was doing, or he knew what he was doing. And this is what happens. Well, now, Titanic sub deaths. Navy captain reveals what could have caused Titan submersible to implode. And we know what it is now. Catastrophic implosion. It was either the lens on the front that was only set to 1,300 meters, or it was the carbon fiber hull. Most of what they've surmised. The hatch with bolts used to seal the crew in from the outside suffered a failure that caused the hull to collapse. He says he believes one of the two things happened. The pressure hull itself had a defect that fractured from the pressure and caused the same result. Now, here's the thing that the CEO of this company was saying, right? That with carbon fiber, again, once you hear a crack or there's a steel, again, like I was saying, will flex and give you like warnings of, hey, this is bubbling in too far. They can measure that. The carbon fiber doesn't move until it fails. It's a very hard substance. So when it fails, boom, it's done. And what the CEO did of this company, OceanGate, he put in audio, I think he said, monitoring equipment that could hear when the cracks or whatever was forming. But everybody in the know was saying, but that's too late. Like once you hear that, it's too late. You need to measure the pressure. If you watch old movies, there was a movie where they strung a piece of string across the submarine, and as the sub got squeezed, you could see the string start to droop lower and lower and lower because the metal would literally bend in. That can't happen with carbon fiber. It has to stay perfectly strong all the way down or it's done. Asked if unusual design of the Titan was reckless, Mr. Ramsey told Sky News, "I wouldn't go so far as to say reckless. I would say disregarding standard ways of building these types of submersibles in pursuit of innovation has huge elements of risk, and in this case, that risk has been realized in the loss of people's lives." Mr. Ramsey, who captained nuclear attack submarine HMS Turbulent, said that the industry will likely tighten regulation and close the possible loopholes. And then here's the last image we have. And this is kind of where things get weird. British Titanic submarine rescue mission with high-tech vehicle blocked by U.S. officials as rescuers race against time to find the missing submersible lost in the Atlantic. A British firm has been waiting to join the effort, but say the American government has not authorized its departure. Now, what's weird about this is in international waters, so the British sub should have been able to do whatever it wanted to help out. A British-based firm has a vehicle that may save the 5 trapped in the sea, which obviously we know that couldn't have happened now. Says the U.S. government has blocked them from joining the mission. It's reported the U.S. vessel can only reach 3,000 meters below water, while Magellan's can plunge depths of up to 5,000 meters, which is 15,000 feet, which is further than they were planning to go down for the Titanic, which is 12,500 feet, I think, which is around 4,000 meters. Yeah, roughly 4,000 meters. So even the U.S. vessel couldn't even get all the way down there. So there's a lot of weird going on with this. But what it really boils down to is this. I get innovation. I get wanting to get young people and diverse people and 25-year-olds fresh out of college and teaching them, the ways to do things. But these old salty dogs, these men with experience, these men that have tested, tried, been in the field doing this for 20 and 30 years, they know things you don't learn in college. They know things you don't learn in school. And we're doing this now across the board. We're doing it here in this case. We're doing it in the aeronautical field. I saw a video of some 22-year-old TikToker taking a TikTok video of her, and she was the only pilot flying a smallish, it looked like a G5 or something, small plane, but it was a jet. And she's like, "Oh, I bet these people would freak out if they know there was a 22-year-old girl, flying there and taking TikTok." I don't want that kind of pilot. I want a pilot that's paying attention. Now, I know a lot of pilots out there now. You'll tell me, "Oh, dude, a lot of times pilots set it on autopilot and fall asleep. Some of them have been caught drinking." Like, I know, and that's why I don't fly, or I fly as little as possible. But when you get rid of experienced people, you get rid of the knowledgeable people, and you try to mess with things all for the name of diversity or inclusion, or things are going to go south real quick. And I bet you're going to see more bridge collapses and more building problems. And not because you're necessarily getting women in or minorities in. I don't mean that. I mean that you're willing to forego the experienced person for somebody that meets your quotas. And when that kind of thing happens, you're going to find a lot of problems. And I think the quality of things, the safety of things, I think things are going to get worse as time goes on. I think we may have already hit like peak America. It might have been back like, 2015, 2018. I don't know when, but I don't think it's now anymore. I think things are going to go on the decline. So there's what happened. And I think this could have been prevented. A sad case overall. I feel really bad for the 4 people that were also in the sub with the CEO, and he wasn't honest about the capabilities of his machine, of his submersible, and these other poor. I don't feel bad for the CEO, but he should have done this solo instead of trying to be greedy and charge $250,000 a pop for everybody else, because it's the most expensive grave that you could ever be buried in. Guys, I'll leave it there. I'll have hopefully something else coming out for you later on today. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.